Very good morning to all of you. At the outset, I'd like to thank, as the President of Indian Arthroscopy Society, to my dear friend Parag Sancheti for bringing this prestigious ROC year after year for past more than 2 decades, thereby enriching us all on the advancement of arthroscopy and sports science. That shows his interest in academics, commitment to teach all, and also the testimony of his organization skills. Thank you, Parag. This is the Center for Sports Science at Ramachandra University, one of the most advanced center for scientific assessment of athletes. The India's first center of excellence for football medicine by AFC, and one among the 4 labs approved by ICC for cricket biomechanics. What is a ramp lesion? It's a posteromedial meniscocapsular and meniscotibial disruption of posterior horn of the middle meniscus, which is integral to the posteromedial knee stability. Anatomically, it's not just the meniscocapsular ligament, it's also meniscotibial ligament, which is attached to the posterior horn of the middle meniscus. Overall prevalence of ramp is about 9 to 41% in ACL injured knees. It goes up by another 8 to 9% if there is more chronic and when there is a revision ACL. Ramp lesion, first described by 1980s by Strobel. He classified into 5 types. More recently, surgically relevant classification is by Dr. Leopard and my dear friend Sachin Tapasvi, where they classified these into 5 types, where type 1 is stable, type 2 to 4 is unstable, of which type 3 to 5 is more common. The presence is about 20 to 40%. This is the same classification with the pictorial representation. So, the eye sees only when the mind is prepared to comprehend. So, MRI sensitivity is limited. Systemic arthroscopic posteromedial exploration, either transnotch or posteromedial portal, is mandatory. Pathophysiology is not an isolated meniscal tear. Ramp lesion represent posteromedial instability. That we have to bear in mind. And disruption of posterior horn as well as the capsular with meniscotibial complex, so that it results in increased anteroposterior and rotational laxity. So you have to see it, look for it, and respect its role for knee stability. MRI, of almost about 30% of ramp lesions is missed. When you see posteromedial tibial plateau bone bruise, that increases the odds of medial meniscal ramp lesion by 2 to 4 times in an ACL ruptured knee. How not to miss ramp lesion? This is published by Chinese authors. Thus, top one shows the anterolateral portal view, standard one. With the same anterolateral portal with a notch view, 3rd degree of scope, we can see posteromedial corner like this. But if you change notch view with the 7 degree scope, you can see better. And the posteromedial view, the 3rd degree scope, also can view the ramp lesion well. So, with the intracondylar view with the 7 degree scope and the posteromedial portal, the detection rate is 100%. So, up to 60% of ramp lesions are missed without 7 degree scope or posteromedial arthroscopic inspection during ACL reconstruction. Another important sign is the Finucci's sign, where the ramp lesion called meniscus jump test. So that shows there is a apial laxity, very high apial laxity, and then it's an indication of meniscal ramp lesions. So what matters in the treatment algorithm? You have to see whether it is a stable ramp or unstable ramp. Stable ramp, where the tear is less than 1 centimeter and there is a peripheral meniscocapsular tear, stable on probing, no subluxation on posterior draw. This is an example, less than 1 centimeter. So you can see just then stable on needle probing. So this is a stable meniscal ramp lesion. What the evidence says? There is no difference in these kind of ramp lesions in clinical outcome. Either you repair or biological treatment or leave in situ. Because high spontaneous healing of 60 to 90% because the vascular post-medial zone. So no suture needed for clearly stable lesions. Rasping trephination is reasonable if you are concerned. So the unstable ramp, the tear is more than 1.5 centimeter, associated with high grade pivot, unstable on needling and probing, and subluxation on posterior draw. This is unstable ramp on the arthroscopic view, and this is obvious separation on needling, as you can see in the notch view. So an unstable ramp, there are some functional clinical clues like the mechanical catching, reproducible posterior pain, high grade pivot shift on marked apial laxity, and posterior horn instability evident intraoperatively. Repair is recommended to restore posterior horn restraint because we need to restore the posterior medial stability. The clinical example of 42-year-old male runner, right chronic ACL injury with sudden onset pain, grade 3 Lachman, high grade pivot. MRI shows ACL tear with middle meniscal ramp lesion. This with the 30-degree scope on the notch, and then posterior medial portal. We use the suture technique. The vertical sutures are good enough. We use the two portal posteriorly, so one weaving portal, one working portal, as you normally do in EPC ablation. So this is how we repair, and this is the end of the procedure. And similar case where 7-degree scope. So we through internal canal you can see well below the posterior tibial plateau, and again you can use the two portal, one for weaving, one working, and the suture technique is well established. Vertical suture is what we need. So in review of literature, this is published in about 10 years ago. 130 consecutive patients undergoing ACL reconstructions all had a vertical suture repair and posterior portal and suture technique, minimum of 2-year follow-up. What he showed, there is a subjective IKD score is significantly improved. Anterior laxity also decreased. The return to activity is high, 80%. A revision rate still about 6 to 8%. So if the ramp lesion is unstable, it has to repair, and it shows is effective, reproducible, and safe procedure. Another more recent review where it is a systemic analysis of 7 studies, almost close to 500 patients. The average age of the patient 27, follow-up almost 3 years. The technique involved is all inside repair, suture or device. We can use also suture anchor, biological treatment, and sometimes leave in situ. And what the clinical outcome? No repair, 12 to 13% had incomplete healing. Even all inside repair, about 2 to 12% had incomplete healing, and no single technique shown superior to the other. So what we have to do is individualize the patient treatment. Not all ramp lesions are the same, and we see how unstable the patient clinically, and you have to treat accordingly. So in conclusion, we have to have a high suspicion when there is ACL injury, high degree of laxity, and posterior medial tibial bruise suspensions, and identify the posterior medial area assessment. Either transnotch view means you must use a 7-degree scope or a posterior medial portal. And the stability drives the treatment. The gap and distance and subluxation. If it is a stable, all it needs is leave in situ. Maybe you can add trephining biological stimulations. An arthroscopic repair, all inside preferred if there is a displacement. So basically you have to, here we are not treating the meniscal tear, we are treating the stability. So we have to probe carefully and repair when unstable. And Indian Ligament Registry, Indian Arthroscopy Society launched this one. I urge all the surgeons to record all you use this registry so that whatever work we do, we can present in international forum. The amount of work what we do is very equal to any other country. And in fact, we have now 6,000 registries. And actually, if you see annual surgeries of any Norwegian country, only about 3,000 to 4,000 ACL surgery. So I request all of them to use this ILR. And also, I take the opportunity to invite you all for the next edition of LSD, where we have none other than Dr. Robert Laprade will be there. Thank you for your patience here.